A little while back, Bloomberg reported on Assassin's Creed Infinity, if this is actually even going to, for sure, stay the official name. There's a lot of hearsay, a lot of different rumors, but a lot of it is actually pretty substantiated reports, and love or hate him, Jason Schreier has usually done a good job as a games journalist in terms of getting behind the scenes looks at things that are not out yet or done yet. I know he's kind of become a bit controversial with the whole Blizzard thing. So I know a lot of people don't like Jason Schreier, but I do think there's a lot with this report for Assassin's Creed Infinity that is pretty substantiated. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. It's going to be interesting, but here is why we're worried about this game. It is supposedly going to be a live service game focusing on multiple eras in the Assassin's Creed continuity. Now, what eras, we don't know. Live service is already a red flag to me personally for several reasons that I'll get into, but I don't exactly think that this is the direction to take a franchise that many are already unsure of the direction of. I mean, the previous trilogy of these games, I'm not saying they're bad by any means, like, a lot of people love them. I know, Nate, you love them, but
yeah, I love them.
They're very different, you know? So is then pivoting again away from what you're doing the way to go?
Yeah, I don't think so, because with Assassin's Creed, with the franchise as a whole, it's taken a lot of different directions over the years. You know, you have like the classic feel where it's basically just the stealth, linear approach to the games with some wide open elements like open world and stuff like that. But for the most part, it basically was kind of linear in terms of just what you do. I mean, not linear in the terms of the gameplay and stuff.
No, but mission structure.
Yeah,
I mean,
missions.
You go from one place to another, you do the mission, then you move on to the next one.
Yeah, it's pretty linear in that sense, and it's all based around stealth. But then the game kind of evolved a little bit, or the franchise, I mean, until eventually now you had the last 3 games with the RPG element, and they were controversial enough. Mm-hmm. My thing with this is, you are taking this in a direction that is like completely different than everything we've ever experienced. Something that is like totally off the rails. Like this is changing the franchise. This is not even just like adding a new element to it. It's making the franchise something different.
Well, it seems like it's making it the Netflix of Assassin's Creed in a way, which
yeah,
I understand to some people that sounds cool.
Right.
But the way that they've described this is a live service that changes and they add to over time, meaning that it starts out as one thing but evolves over time. And Ubisoft actually has made some of their statements on this official, actually calling it Assassin's Creed Infinity, by the way, in their own press release on their website, talking about how there's a lot of different corporate jargon in here about how their previous games shattered records, and basically they throw the pandemic out there because every company has to throw that out there to talk about it. Then they say that it gave them time to reflect on how they make games, and that fans have been asking for a more cohesive approach to the development of the franchise for several years. So basically what they want to do is, instead of passing it around in studio, because, you know, Ubisoft's a huge studio, but there's different development teams.
Right.
Instead of being like, hey, this development team will make this one, they want to basically have everybody on the Infinity experience. And that is not a bad thing in and of itself. The issue I have with it is just going all in on saying that it's essentially live service. I mean, even Jason Schreier in that report, he's not a spokesperson for Ubisoft, but, you know, he was the one who broke that news originally, said that it seems that Ubisoft sees the future of Assassin's Creed as live service. That's the issue I have with this. And here's why. My issue with it's actually a little different than a lot of people's, because I am someone who really believes in game preservation. I like being able to go back to old games, and not just when they're officially remastered. So what I mean by that is, like, right now, I've actually been playing Arkham City some on my computer, like actually Asylum and City a little bit off and on, and they're not the remastered versions of the games. They're just the old PC port of the game. You know what I mean? It's still available for me to play and download and play through. Yes, it's digital, but I can get that game whenever I want and play through the experience as it was intended to be. It is the same as it was at launch. My issue with this is an experience that develops and changes over time eventually is going to die.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? Are you going to compile every single little bit of data and every single mission that was ever in Infinity on a disk? Probably not. So what happens in 20 years when this thing shuts down?
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a ways
out. Or even
out.
before then.
Well, yeah, I was being very generous, but I'm saying, like, if it lasts through 2 console generations or something, what if eventually it goes away? That's the issue I have with this kind of stuff. I know there's way more issues to it than that, but that's the first red flag to me is games like Destiny 2 or 1 or Star Wars Battlefront 1 EA, those games are eventually going to be pretty much unplayable. There's not going to be much anything on them once those online services are gone.
Mm-hmm.
If this is entirely based around online service, this is going to be the first game in the series that has a death date, where it's just not the same experience anymore. Because all of them up to this point, if anything, the Assassin's Creed games have improved in terms of versus when they came out. Like, you can pop Assassin's Creed 1 into an Xbox One X or Series X and play a better looking version of it. You can pop in, the Ezio trilogy. It has its own problems, but you can put it on Series X, play it in 60 FPS. Assassin's Creed 3, same thing. A lot of these have been updated to become better experiences over time, and they're able to do that because they're self-contained on-disc experiences you can go back to years later and enjoy. Ezio's story is no less impactful in 2021, for example, than it was in, 2010. From that aspect alone already, this is very off-putting to me.
Well, and also with that, now a lot of it hasn't been revealed yet, so I guess we don't know exactly what this is going to look like. But to me, the stuff I think about is eventually you're going to have a lot of content on this game. And whether this is a digital-only game or a disc game, whatever it is, eventually there's going to be a lot of content on this. And what is that going to look like? Are you going to be able to play, let's say they put on like a China era and then like a, Africa era and like maybe an American history era or something. Are you going to be able to go back in 10 years and play all 3 of those eras again? Or is it like, oh, well, we're going to have this season be the China era. Next season's the Africa era.
Oh, and it goes away like Fortnite.
Exactly. And that's my fear is like, well, this is going to be a game you have to buy at launch to get the full experience, or else you miss out.
So your fear is even sooner than mine.
Exactly.
You don't think they might even not keep all of this on the whole life cycle.
Right. My fear is they're going to take it into approach of live service of this is live service.
Yeah.
You are playing this game when it comes out, or else you miss out. And to me, that is really stupid to do for Assassin's Creed. I mean, Assassin's Creed is not like Fortnite. Fortnite is a game, no offense to Fortnite people, you drop on a map and you shoot people and try to be the last one standing. But with Assassin's Creed's always been about the story. It's always been about the character development. It's always been about the world building. It's always been in depth like that. And to make a service where you have to play it when it comes out or else you miss out, that's stupid.
It's the fear of missing out. It's the FOMO stuff where like, as much as people love the new Hitman games, I remember when they were first releasing 1 and it was kind of off-putting to me because they had these special timed contracts where it's like, oh, you have to go after this person. It's an event or you miss out.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff to me annoys me. It doesn't actually make me excited to play the game. It is off-putting.
Right.
Because it's essentially the idea of like if you're an adult with responsibilities and like anything going on in your life, you're going to miss out on stuff in this game.
Right.
Now, I'm not trying to be mean to people who have the time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you have the time for that kind of stuff,
fine.
More power to you.
Great.
I wish I did.
Yeah.
I wish that I had time to keep up with every show and every game and stuff like that. I'm not saying people have no life who can. Maybe they're better at time management than I am.
Right.
I don't know. But I do think this is an unreasonable expectation for gamers if that's the way they go, of like look at you. Didn't you recently beat Valhalla?
Yeah.
Just recently? Because
I haven't platinumed it. I started the Siege of Paris DLC, but I recently beat the game.
And you don't even work as much as some people. I mean, you work a full-time job, but imagine people who work 60 hours a week. Are they just not going to be able to play Infinity?
Right.
They just can't play it at all?
Yeah, I bought that game when it launched in November of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
and I just beat it. It's now end of August 2020. So it's like half a year I've been playing that game.
Yeah, off and on. With
about 120 hours into it. So like...
Right, that's the thing. It's like, I just think that that's very unreasonable. And I also think, by the way, you know, a direction standpoint with this, the RPG elements, like you said, they were very controversial.
Right.
I like them.
Yeah, I thought they were great.
I think that it's cool. I think it's cool to be able to choose. I think that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being able to make your character who you want and kind of, I don't know, interact with that. And they still have a solid story, right? Because there's things that happen no matter what.
Right.
But then there's also things you have control over.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that with an evolving experience? Like, let's say, for example, I'm not saying they're going to do this. Let's say there's an era where you play again as Ezio.
Right.
Maybe between Brotherhood and Revelations.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go RPG on him and you start changing stuff, you have the issue of you are kind of evolving this character over time, but then you have to move on to a different character later.
Right.
Well, you can't play as Ezio in Rome. It would be stupid if they put it back there again, but let's just say they did. And then play as him in China 200 years later, and then play as him in America 500 years later.
Right.
There's no way to carry that character to multiple eras. You could carry you, the player, in the Animus to those eras, like they did with, you know, Desmond or other characters like that. But I don't think that that's a very like, for talking about this being cohesive, how is that going to be cohesive?
Right.
I mean, you could do something like, hey, during this era, the Templars are going after this thing. Turns out they're also going after it in this era, and those are tied together. But how do you do character progression? Say you level up your character through RPG elements, and your character's level 100. Well, now you're going to jump into a new character that's level 1.
Yeah.
You can't start at 100.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, you'd have to move over all those abilities from one assassin to another, and it would get boring.
Right.
So we have to assume that they're going to be more unique, meaning that cross progression is an issue of, like, do you eventually end up with 3 eras that are all separate games just in the same launcher? I mean, that's pointless. Why not just release them all separately then? It reminds me of the integration of Call of Duty right now. It doesn't really matter. Like, what's the point of this integration? All the multiplayers are separate. All the campaigns are separate. The only integration is Warzone, which is unbalanced as hell now, which is a problem with cross-integrating multiple game experiences. And then you just have a massive application that's like 300 gigabytes. Which, by the way, is this going to end up being that? Because these games are huge.
Yeah, Valhalla was like 100 gigabytes itself.
How do you fit this on your console then at that point? Say they do 3 eras. Are they all going to be really short to combat that, and then they're shallow?
Right.
Or
yeah,
what?
It's just there's not... This is my main problem with this. I'm fine with live service games. I'm fine with them. Not with Assassin's Creed. It's not a franchise that works with live service. Now, maybe it comes out. Maybe I love it. I don't know. But just right now, it doesn't work. No. At least I don't think so, because your problem is either this game's going to be humongous with like just 500 gigabytes on this game, or your experience is going to be too shallow. Like, imagine like a bunch of Freedom Cries. Now, I love Freedom Cry, but imagine a bunch of that. Is anyone going to care about a 10-hour story? And then like half a year later, oh, well, here's another 10-hour story in China. Or, oh, here's one in Russia. It's like, okay, cool, but these characters aren't developed.
Right, that's the issue, is they go slow with the writing in these games. So, in terms of will anyone care about a 10-hour story, if it's its own standalone base game, you know, like Freedom Cry or whatever that they release once in a while, I think yes. But
yeah, I mean,
if it's all on
right.
one thing and you're asking people to keep coming back to that
right.
one thing for that, I think you have a point. Like, I think at a certain point, no one's going to come back. I mean, a lot of people buy Assassin's Creed, whether this viewer, whoever's watching this, does or not, because they're huge games with a lot to do.
Yeah.
So if you start eliminating that aspect of the games, yes, you can make a more focused story over a short amount of time. That can be good, but I don't know how you do that while also using those RPG elements that it seems like they're not going to back away from.
Yeah.
If they straight up said, we are going back to Assassin's Creed 4 mechanics, and that's it, I could maybe see this working. Because you could do those very to-the-point stories.
Right.
But when you do that also, you're going to either have to stuff the world with a bunch of garbage like Unity did, or Arkham Origins with like those Enigma data packs and stuff where you have to just throw stuff on the map to eat up time and make the world feel lived in, or you have to continually build these open worlds and make them feel really good, which I don't see the incentive to do if you're just going to release another one in 2 months or 3 months or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no incentive to perfect that world when it's like, we made a mistake, we'll get the next one right.
Right.
So then are you going to have experiences that are like not as good at the beginning and then eventually the final one's like the best and that's what should have come out?
Yeah. There's a lot of question marks for me.
Yeah, and I'm not fine with live service games, right. By the way. Just to throw this out here. Like, I get what you're saying. Every single one I've played starts out as trash.
Right.
That's my big issue with this sort of thing. Like, if you want to make a game and make it better over time, that's cool. But me as a player, I have no reason to play it at launch then.
Yeah.
Like,
if you just know in a year from now it's going to be great.
There's no point. Every time I do that, I regret it and feel like it's better later on. Every time, like Avengers or Destiny or any of these games, I get in at the beginning, I play it, I'm excited, I play it when it's at its worst, and then by the time it's good, I don't want to play it. It's like, okay, well, we paid for the same experience, you got a better one. Why'd I play it at launch?
Yeah.
These types of games punish early adopters for no reason. But then there's no one playing it later on, so what's the point? You know, look at Avengers. Like, yes, the game is getting better. No one cares.
Right.
You know,
everyone, the experience got ruined for everyone.
Everyone left. Yes, there's a subset of people on Twitter who love the game still. That's awesome. That's still a tiny minority of the people who bought it. Most people left. So when you're doing this kind of stuff, I think it alienates players and it makes them either feel like there's no point to play at the beginning or they play at the beginning and then they regret playing your game.
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest red flag for me at first was reading their statement about what they did over the pandemic and how they said, well, fans have been asking for a more cohesive experience, right? To me, that shows the disconnect between this company and their fans, because fans may have been asking for a cohesive experience, but the biggest thing fans have been asking for is not a live service game. People have been wanting it just to go back to the original style. And, well, I think I'm in the minority where I actually like both styles of Assassin's Creed. I like the originals. I like the RPGs. To me, saying like, oh, well, fans want the classic feel. Let's make a live service game. It's like you're not even giving the fans what they want.
No, you're not listening.
You're not listening to them.
But you're pretending you are.
Yeah, you say like, well, we listened to the fans. No, you didn't. Because no one's asking for this. To be honest, this is my favorite game franchise. I follow along with this franchise. I have since basically the beginning. I have never once heard anybody, even the most random individual online, I have never heard anyone ask for a live service Assassin's Creed game. Now, maybe someone somewhere thought of it, but I've never seen it. So who is asking for this? And where does this company think that this is the direction to go?
Well, this is what it is. It is corporate. It's this belief that they know everything.
Right.
You know
it's
what I mean?
Pride.
Yeah, we know what's best.
Yeah.
I always bring up this example with Sega. Sega was this way for a little while. They thought, like, we can't do anything wrong. It's Sonic. It'll sell. Well... that failed.
Sonic Boom.
Yeah, Sonic Boom, Sonic 06. Like, there were a bunch of, like, flops in there that caused them to reassess what they were doing. But what I'm saying with that is that there was sort of this arrogance and pride. Nintendo's the same way. I'm not trying to insult Nintendo. I think they're a pretty great company. But they've had a lot of arrogance with things like how they deal with YouTube or the Wii U. Of, like, we're Nintendo, it'll sell. You can't have these arrogant attitudes in business.
Right.
Whenever you go in that direction, what happens? Sales fall. People are uninterested. There's 100 other video game developers and things being made that they're more interested in. I get that this is Assassin's Creed and that's a huge name, but you can't always bank on that forever. Sonic was a huge name. Guess what? It's not really now. I mean, it's still big.
It's a big classic name.
Yeah, and it still comes out with some good games, but what they did with this was after they had so many failures, they looked at the community. They found Christian Whitehead, who was actually developing fan ports of different classic games and also working on his own Sonic stuff. Mm-hmm. They saw how passionate he was, and they said, oh, the community's behind this guy. This guy has a spark that we don't have right now. Well, people have been asking for classic Sonic back forever, and this is a guy who understands it in modern day. And Sega admitted, like, hey, look, we've gone in a direction of 3D. Not all of us understand how to make that old game again from the 80s or 90s. We don't get how to do that. So what do? Do we double down on arrogance and pride and say, screw you, we're going our way and keep losing money? Or do we bring in someone who knows what they're doing, who can? That's what they did. You should look to the community for ideas and for ways to go. And look, there's stupid things the community says all the time. I mean, absolutely. You know, there's dumb things fans will say, but this idea of ignore them all, they don't know what they're talking about, they don't get business, let's go our own way. It's so off-putting.
Yeah, and especially because this is just purely for a cash grab.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with like, well, we really want to give the fans. No, this is you want money.
Yeah.
And this is the way to make money.
Because companies see live service and they see dollar signs.
Right. Just one last final thought I had on this. They want to consolidate their different departments for making one game, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's a better business decision. Why not just consolidate the departments, have them all work on one game, but release your game every 2 or 3 years? And make each game amazing.
Yeah, every 3 years would be really good, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they did this after Syndicate. You know, Unity, now I love Syndicate. I really did. But I understand people's frustration with the franchise after Unity. They took a year off, and they released Origins. Origins is my favorite video game of all time. Now, I know a lot of people didn't like it. I understand that. But a lot of people loved it. It refreshed the franchise. And to me, if you just like take 2 or 3 years off and release a game every 2 or 3 years, you can have your one department. You can consolidate everyone. You can make one cohesive experience in terms of the behind the scenes stuff, while not shoving in a cash grab experience like this.
Yeah.
You can just release each individual game. And they could even take fan feedback in between and say, what era do you guys want to see next? The fans have been asking for a feudal Japan era for years.
Right.
Fans have been asking for a Civil War era. Like, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just, there's so much discontent for me.
Yeah.
That with this game. What really makes me mad is, this is my favorite game franchise of all time, and it sucks to watch it be about to be ruined.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm just really mad about this. I hate it.
No, I completely agree. I do not know what they're doing. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on Assassin's Creed Infinity? We are interested to hear them. We are both obviously very skeptical about the game. Maybe it comes out. I would love to be proven wrong. I'm sure Nate would too.
Absolutely.
Because
I love it.
We want the game to be good, and we don't actually sit around getting off to something being bad. Right. I want every game to be good.
Yeah,
I love video games. So I hope that we're wrong. I hope that it comes out great. But so far, this just seems like a lot of red flags. Interested to hear what you think. Please be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this. Subscribe for more content. We appreciate you very, very much. Have a fantastic day, everyone. And down in the description, we have our secondary channel, Degenerate Plays, where we actually played through Assassin's Creed 2 and had a really fun time. We are just wrapping that up right now. A couple parts left. So hope to see you there. And as always, everyone, stay shway.